On today's DNVR Nuggets podcast, if you could go back in time at any time in the Jokic era and change just one thing, what would you change? We're looking at some Denver Nuggets what ifs. We'll see you on the other side. I'm starving.
Yeah, now you missed it.
Oh, the fly is back. He was not here until right when we went live.
Yeah, he is back.
This is a killer, man. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR show. There we go, live from Toyota Lounge, driven by your front range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. Easy for me to say.
Why is that? Oh, because
I tripped up.
Yeah, they didn't give me. They didn't give me my Toyota. I thought, was that part of the deal?
You were supposed to get a Toyota.
I was supposed to get one, right? No,
oh, man, a 4Runner?
I'll follow up with Andre.
We have a great show for you today. I actually love the rundown today. We're going to do some what ifs, and some of them are good, some of them are negative. It's really a question of, like, what's the one thing? If you could go back in time and change one thing, what would it be? And we have a good list, I feel, of, like, some interesting sliding doors moments. We're also going to talk about who has the most to gain and lose this year, and we'll have a little bit of fun at the end of the show. And by we, I mean myself and Brendan Vogt.
Hey, how's it going, gang? How's everyone doing? It's a beautiful day in Denver, Colorado.
Dude, I'm telling you, we are in the best 2-month stretch of anywhere on earth. I love Colorado, but I love it because of September and October. That's where it absolutely peaks. We're a little early because it's cooled down a little early. We are living our best life right now.
It's as good as it gets. It's about to get better for me. I have to fulfill a request and start the show. Happy birthday to my lovely girlfriend, Diana, joining us in Denver here shortly. She's on the way. What a treat. What a treat for old B-Rad.
So now we got to find out if you've been lying or not, if there really is. I mean, because now you're saying she's coming. So
yeah, those pictures I Googled and poached from the internet. We'll see.
I'm going to start today's show, though. This first segment, I just got a couple little topics. And one of them is, tomorrow we're going to have to talk about the Michael Porter Jr. podcast with Austin Rivers. Have you even listened to it yet?
Not yet, no.
I can't believe you haven't listened to the MPJ pod yet. It was actually very interesting.
I've been busy building out my life.
Okay. Well,
trying to become more well-rounded.
You can listen to music while you do that. But nonetheless, we'll talk about that tomorrow because I think that warrants full segment, whatever.
I can't wait to
But there was another podcast, the OG's pod with Haslam. Udonis Haslam and Mike Miller.
Yes.
The OG's pod, which is a hilarious pairing, by the way. I actually love that pairing. But they had on Hassan Whiteside. And, sometimes it's the guests you don't expect that are the most interesting. Hassan Whiteside is like Jeff Teague in that he's kind of hilarious, good storyteller, and has a funny perspective. Just like, not that it's a great perspective, but he has kind of a funny one. And he was asked about the best big man in the game. And who would you guess he said?
Well, just using context clues, did he go with Jokic?
He went with Nikola Jokic.
Let's go, man.
Which kind of raises me up because Hassan Whiteside is a guy I think of as being not a very high IQ basketball player.
Oh, no. He knows ball. Who was he imitating in the driveway, Adam?
Actually, you're right, huh?
Who tried the first sophomore shuffle
he did try
driveway
the first
highlight tape? It was Hassan Whiteside.
I'm so glad.
He knows ball. Next reclamation project in Denver?
Well, first of all, have you seen, he has the weirdest body. His biceps are the size of bigger than my thighs.
Yeah.
But he's not the biggest bodied guy. He just has enormous shoulders and biceps.
Is he a skinny guy that lifts a lot?
Maybe he just works curls or whatever.
Just curls.
But he had this to say of Jokic, that once he gets it going, it's over. He's one of those guys that if he gets in a groove, then there's nothing you can do to stop him, which, fact check.
True.
I would say true as well. Yeah, it sounds like that one's true. But then I love this one because he was talking about, players don't talk about this a lot, but he's huge, man.
Yes.
Like some of these centers, they're not that big or whatever. But he's like, but me, I'm a big guy. He's huge. He's too big for me. And then on top of that, he goes, he's so slimy.
I feel like slimy.
This is a good, it's kind of a dig, but also.
Did he elaborate on that?
Well, he's he does a very good, you'll have to see the clip, but he's shows what it's like to guard him, and he just rolls off you like this, and he's slimy. And I'm like, you're right. Yoke is always rolling his weight on because your arm's on him.
Yeah.
And then if you add slime to that, it's true. It does actually.
Slime. And he's a sweaty guy. Harder. Yeah, it gets harder. It's the last layer of Jokic, maybe the first layer of Jokic, depending on your perspective. I agree with him. It is ironically despite what should be the most blatant thing about him, that he's huge.
Yeah.
It's the last like skill guy, finesse guy, IQ guy, and then also the size of a tree. And that last part is what makes him so matchup proof.
And then slimy.
And then
really
slimy.
is just a cherry on top.
And then slimy.
I'll tell you though, because I know you haven't played a ton of basketball personally in your day, but have you ever gone up against the slimy guy?
Yeah, dude, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like, it really is a thing where like we all knew a guy growing up you would play hoops with, and it's like, man, yeah, Kev's a cool guy, but he's just so sweaty, man. Like
slimy.
And then, hey, you got Kev. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Are you sure there's nobody else want to guard him?
And that's why they become post players, because they know everyone's guarding them. Like, I don't want this.
But you know what people do? Because I don't think you can fake sweat. Like, I don't think there's anything you can do to like go grease yourself up. But guys, in the NBA, they do sharpen their nails. Like Marcus Smart, he would sharpen his fingernails so that he could scratch the hell out of you. We see guys that have their nails long, and Yoke is obviously the guy that shows the most scars. Slime, I don't think you can do. But nails to me is such a cheap shot. The only other thing that is like that to me, like slime, is body odor. Have you ever played against the guy that just stinks? Yeah. You're like, dude, did you wear deodorant today? We're playing physical activity.
My greatest strategic advantage in any sport I ever played. I don't have a sense of smell.
Oh.
So I'm happy to smell like shit. Sorry, to smell terribly. You have to deal with it. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I always thought, for like a long time, I thought that was a curse. What a blessing. You know how many times I've been in a room where people are like, oh, and I'm getting none of it,
No, it's a curse, though. I'll take the bad smells with the good ones.
That's what I thought at first.
I lost my smell at COVID, and I'm telling you, like, I remember thinking, like, this would be depressing. And I was, in fact, depressed when because it took a week or something. And I remember being like, man, this week has not been as good as most other weeks. Also, I had COVID, so that was
part of it. You also do need a good friend to help you out with hygiene. Like, hey, man, just in case, you should.
You smell terrible.
Yeah. Not that shirt, actually.
Well, they've said this of Miles Bridges, that he smells terrible.
That checks out.
It kind of seems like that would be true. But you do wonder, like, you're going up against a guy, he's physical, he's tough, and he smells. It's like that last part.
True.
And he's like, slimy.
And you're like 23 games out of first place. It's January. You're like, I'm not doing this.
He had 43 points. Remember that April Ultra? So whoever was like, you know what? I punt. I give up.
This is a great point.
He also, Hassan Whiteside, getting back to the story, he says that what's different about him, and he was even comparing him to Joel Embiid in this one, but he goes, a lot of other bigs, you might go to him 2 out of 3 times, but you don't go to him every time. He's like, with Yoke, it's every time. Right. They run the offense through him, so you're constantly having to do something. You never get a possession off.
That's another good point.
But my favorite point, perhaps, that he brought up was this last one, of which I clipped for you. It's actually a 2-parter. Go for it, Kale.
And then it's just like, man, you looking like, man, I'm in a weight room every day. I'm doing all this conditioning. And you just look at him and you like, bro, this is crazy.
The math ain't mathing.
Bro, he's a hell of a player, bro. He is a hell of a player. Shot, he made a 3 over me one time off his right foot going, shooting it. I'm like, so I just took it as like, he don't do that often. This is like when he first started doing it. And then I seen it do it to AD. AD had the same reaction I had. I said, hold on, bro. This dude be practicing this? Like, this is like
practicing that. Let me tell you.
So what I love about the first part of this is he's like, I'm in the weight room every day. I'm working out. And he doesn't finish the sentence, but the context of it is, and this dude's in better shape than me. And if you look at him, it doesn't look like it. And I think it's the most underrated part of Yoke, because the best athletes in the world play in the NBA. And they're, most of them, in great shape. And they're looking at Yoke, and they're like, how's this dude in better shape than... He's like the DeAndre Ayton. He's running again?
Exactly. No, that's why that DeAndre Ayton stat line is my favorite ever, because Ayton was a guy who, from a physical profile standpoint in college, he was a monster, dude. Like, there was no one that could dream of matching up with him just from that standpoint. And then it's like, look, man, you can bench as much as you want and jump as high as you want. And, like, he's also strong. He's going to run the floor. And he's going to find a way to exploit, like, the discrepancy you have with him athleticism-wise. Like, Jokic is very good at exploiting it. So, like, he can't be too fast, so he just changes pace. Or he gets you up in the air, and he hasn't jumped yet. Like, it's just it works against them almost. And I loved hearing Whiteside describe it, because there's also, lastly, the difference between functional strength and functional athleticism, and just some people genetically, you work out, you're going to look better than other. Like some people just put on glamour muscles really easily. Jokic works out a lot. Jokic does not look like he has glamour muscles, but he is like functionally his strength and his athleticism and his conditioning, for the most part, is where it needs to be.
I also feel like he has a lot of, I don't remember if they're red blood cells or white blood cells. Which one carry oxygen?
Brother.
Do you know, Kel? You should know this. You're a skier. Whichever one it is, I feel like he has a lot of them.
Red blood cells carry oxygen.
Those are the ones that carry the oxygen.
White blood cells are the ones that attack the infections.
Like your immune system.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you for that little lesson there, Kel. That was really, I was surprised he actually knew that one.
Yeah, no,
that was pretty good.
I wasn't actually.
Yeah.
So he played, how many minutes did he play in that Portland game?
65 of 68, I think.
Right. So Jokic, what I'm getting at is if Jokic didn't love beer, he could play 80 minutes. That's what I'm trying.
True.
That's what I'm trying to say.
True.
Other than that,
it's his one weakness.
Yeah,
He really likes his beer.
I don't even think he considers it a weakness.
Yeah, well, he's like, it's my strength. Are you kidding me? The other thing I wanted to talk about in this block one, we always just kind of warm up in block one. You know, as I told you, I've been doing lately. End of night. Sit out on my porch a little bit, enjoy the nice fall evenings, which again are my favorite time of year, the fall evenings. You sit out there. And I watched some highlight reels. I've been watching some different ones. So, you know, obviously Jokic, Murray, this or that. But I found a Westbrook mixtape, you know. And I got to say this, man. We talked the other day about how there's Westbrook stands. Like they have his own army of people that are following him. I got to say something. There's some creative people in the Westbrook stan culture. You know what I mean? I'm like, if you just said not who has the best mixtapes in terms of what they're doing, but who's creating the best mixtapes, I think Westbrook has some talented individuals back there. Have you found this yet?
Yes, you showed me one, and
isn't it emotional?
It is emotional. Well, there's a lot of fun narrative stuff you can run with Russ.
That's part of it.
And like in different directions. And
that's what I mean.
Kind of build your own Russ story.
Great stories.
And we have actually kind of already started building our own Russ story in Denver in a fan fiction kind of way.
Totally.
Man, it would be such a good story.
It would be the best story.
I can't get past this.
Brother, I keep going here too. And like I said, I don't want to go too far because I do think it's like 50-50. Which way this whole thing breaks, it could be terrible.
There are going to be some tough nights.
But I will say this because I've been thinking a lot, you know, just since we've been talking about the Westbrook stands and everything else. And, you know, there's so many, part of what makes basketball and really sports in general, but I think basketball is somewhat unique in this, is everybody has a different way of accessing basketball. You know, and I think that there are a lot of fans, especially the ones online, that really love the analytics and love to, you know, break things down or go to the film study. And it's almost a science, you know, like the basketball is a science to be studied and discussed. And on the other end of the spectrum there's basketball as an art. And, you know, I told you I'm a big Kobe guy, or was a big Kobe guy back in the day. And Kobe to me was kind of an artist. We've talked about basketball artists versus basketball scientists. Mm-hmm. I think Westbrook, like Allen, I compared him to Allen Iverson. Remember I said this could be like Denver's Allen Iverson, the Jokic era's Iverson era? It could be that. But part of it is because both of those guys, to me, are supreme on the other side, not the scientists, the pure almost emotion. And I think that's what's so attractive about him to so many people, and why he has an army of fans is that he is one of the most, like, cut out the you know, analyzing this from like a technical or scientific standpoint, throw that out, because he actually, I think, frustrates people in that way. But from an emotional standpoint, there's something so incredibly attractive about just, it's all heart with him. It's all passion. It's all intensity. And that lends itself to narrative as well, all these different storylines.
One of the first ever layers of things that made an athlete more fun to root for than another was just, again, it's like this immediate layer. It's not even the analysis. It's just like, man, that guy moves different and he's having fun and he's screaming and he's like, he draws your attention. I really think it's important to never forget we have a bubble of fans. We do this for a living. We're credentialed media. A lot of people just pay to go to some basketball games. From that standpoint, Russ is great. Like, he's a guy who plays hard, who treats almost every game like it's just as important as the next one. He's going to do some cool stuff. He's going to be theatric. Murray can do this, by the way. I think Russ has kind of lived in this place mentally.
Right.
And just for most people who are like, man, we dropped some money, we're going to go to X Arena tonight and watch this game. Oh, Russ is in town? This is sick because he plays hard.
And he might draw that out of the Nuggets, because one of the most iconic things I can think of, like if I think about iconic emotional Jokic moments, 2017 or 16 where he gets the silver medal and he's at Sombor and he's crying as he's giving his speech. When they raise the banner and he's got tears in his eyes watching the banner go up, and you're just kind of like, man, Yoke doesn't show us that very often, but when he does, it's so memorable. And part of me goes, I think Westbrook draws it out, man. Like Westbrook, that's out. His internal is external in that way. His emotions are outside himself in a way that I think might be contagious and something that we're going to see. I mean, Murray is very that way. We see his emotions. He lets them out, and he's so charismatic when they really hit. We're ready for some of the different, the Game 6 speech in the bubble. That's some of our favorite moments. And I just think Westbrook's going to draw that out of these Nuggets. And I'm excited for that. If, again, assuming they're positive emotions and not negative ones.
Assumptive of me, I'm going to do something I shouldn't. And I think I speak for a lot of people here. One of the best parts of the Jokic experience is when Murray hits a big shot and Jokic gets really pumped.
Yep.
And a couple of layers to this. Murray's always going to be that guy with the chances at the end of the games. But let's just say Russ hits a big shot. Couldn't you just see, how dope would it be to see Jokic get emotional about it?
Yeah.
Secondly, the other way around, I do love when Jokic hits his big shots and then all of his teammates get excited and he's kind of chill about it. I could just envision Russ, getting in his face. No, man, smile. Let's go, And there's I actually think this is, in a small way, the only thing the Nuggets have been missing in the Jokic tenure from a fan perspective. And I think that's why a lot of people were so drawn to Bruce Brown.
Yes, 100%.
And the contagious energy that permeated the air in the 16-4 run even got to the fan base of it's more fun when you have someone like that around and you're winning.
100%. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to get into our title conversation, which is, if you can go back in time and change just one thing, what would it be from the Jokic era? And you can let us know in the chat, by the way.
Haircut.
Let us know right now, again, just Cedric, I think, in the chat right now. Everybody else, chime in and let us know what's the one thing you would change from the Jokic era if you could go back in time.
You know what the one thing a lot of people wish they could change about this summer? They wish they had sent the Red Hawk roofers up to take a look at their roofs, because you can't always see the damage from the ground, especially if you're 5'7" or below. That's why it's important to send the professionals up there. And boy, do we have a recommendation for you. Red Hawk Roofing. Best roofers in Denver. And of course, they're part of the DNVR team. Quality materials, decades of experience, quick response time, Colorado's best estimators and contractors. Huge DNVR supporters, big Nuggets fans. That's always fun. Hail season's here. Take a look, man. And again, if you can't always just take a look from the ground, so it's actually more important to have Red Hawk Roofing. Take a look. Supporting your local teams means also supporting local businesses like Red Hawk Roofing. If you're looking for a new roof or home over your business, be sure to check out Red Hawk Roofing at redhawkroofing.com or call 720-771-8921. Tell them that DNVR sent you. Excuse me. Bet365, where it's never ever ordinary, is a really fun place to do your sports wagering if that's what you're into. I like the different deals that they toss you. Just every now and then you'll see the early payout offer with the NBA stuff or 100% parlay boost. Obviously, they've got great deals at sign up for folks. But what I really like about Bet365 is that if you watch it and you know it, there's a good chance you can play it at Bet365. So it's awesome, man. They're the pioneers of live betting. And as the NBA season hits up, if sports betting is what you're into, Bet365 is the app that you need. So download it today. Use the code DNVR365 to sign up. Deposit $10. Choose between either a bet and get offer and place a bet of $5 or more. Get 200 bonus bets or a first bet safety net offer by placing a bet up to $1,000. And if your qualifying bet loses, you get a matched refund in bonus bets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You do have to be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
We back?
We're back.
All right, segment 2, you saw it. It's our headline and title topic of the show today, and that is, if you could go back in time and change just one thing about the Jokic era Nuggets, what would it be? Now, I'm going to get the big one out of the way. I think a lot of people would say, oh, look at the sliding doors. Great graphic here, Kale.
Yeah, I love that.
Very great graphic
Kind
work.
of
I love
haunting,
it.
but I like it.
Yeah, it's haunting in a good way, though. I kind of like it. A little dark.
Artsy, yeah.
Michael Porter Jr., or I'm sorry, Jamal Murray's injury in 2021 is going to be the obvious one. You just traded for Aaron Gordon. You got him. I think this is easily the number one thing most people would say. But here's the thing. And Ryan Russillo is the guy who actually brought this up in the wake of the Nuggets' 2023 championship. And I think a lot of Nuggets fans took offense to it, but I think it's a fair point. If Denver wins, or if Denver is healthy in 2021, do they win? I don't think any of us know that. Were they ready for it? I have no idea. And if they don't, does it feel like, a failure in a way where pressure starts to mount? Like we just talked about the Dallas Mavericks just made it to the finals, but next year now there's higher expectations, or OKC or what have you. If Denver goes into that year and doesn't win, do people start to question it in a way they did not because of Murray's injury?
No, because while obviously we can't guarantee that they would have won, I think they would have looked good, made a deep run. They were so good post that trade, and it was a small sample size. But let's say you do that and you get to the Western Conference Finals, and you come up short. You go, yeah, man, but aren't they on to something like that? Okay, it's hard to do at a trade deadline. Give them a camp together, right? Those kind of conversations. I also think that group could have won together. I really do. I don't think they picked it up really quickly. And we've watched, I think, teams get somewhat used to what Denver wants to do or tries to do over the years, or at least develop game plans for it. And maybe they would have in the postseason. But in that week and a half, 2 weeks, I think what we saw was the Nuggets had the next thing that coaches had to figure out. And yeah, they didn't have KCP. They didn't have Bruce Brown. That might have been the difference. But I think they would have looked so good in a compelling way.
And they might have won it. And if they won it, it really might have become a three-peat. Like it might have just gone all the way through. I think that a sneaky one for me is also Michael Porter Jr.'s injury, and I actually put 2021 on this here, but I think it was 2021. It was later in 2021 where he had to miss. And I think this one is, to me, I don't know if it's number 2, but it's way up here, because I always say I just wish we would have got a full season of Porter and Jokic without Murray, because I think it would have actually paid dividends later on.
Man, it is. We talk about the surgeries as if they all happened at once, and they didn't. And each one took something from Mike. And look, man, here's how I've decided to frame this one. We've spent a lot of time talking about how crazy it would be if they could have 3 20-point per game scorers. And what does Mike have to do? And what does Denver have to do? Mike's first full season in the NBA, let's call it 55 games in 2019, 2020. The next year, so his sophomore year, 19 points per game on 54% from the floor, and
it was his career season,
and 45% from three with 7.3 rebounds.
The athleticism was still there,
and the numbers are eye popping. Go back and watch it. He was moving. And that's the thing about Mike. Like before, when he was originally tabbed as a top recruit, possibly number 1 overall pick, it wasn't, oh, this guy's just a sharpshooter. He also moved really well for a 7-footer. He doesn't anymore. Go back and watch right before that injury. I think Denver figured out what to do from there. Mike figured out what to do from there. But on track of being a dynamic player, I think he and they had a chance before that injury.
So these ones are big. I'm with you, and I just think that even if he's hobbled or what have you, just a season of playing with Jokic where he was elevated to number 2 would have just developed him in a completely different way. That would have been amazing. It would have been fun to watch. And there are numbers out there that when Jokic and Porter share the court together, the Nuggets have like an 80% win percentage.
Right.
Something insane. And obviously, a lot of those are also with Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray, so it's not just that pairing. But I do think there's something too. There's something to that. Pairing is really good.
And if it's a year without Murray, like, is there a better time where you can say, hey, look, a lot of the focus right now is on developing Mike and letting him dribble or try to get open, or we've designed this for him, or just develop chemistry on his own with Jokic. That was what was supposed to happen. That was supposed to be the silver lining of that year. And it was taken away in the 9th game.
So number 1 to me is neither of the ones we've gone over yet.
Okay.
This one is number 1 to me. What if Jamal Murray doesn't get injured in 2024? And by injury, I mean that March one. I honestly think it all comes down to this. Now, Murray, all the things that, I have criticized him for, that injury compounds all of it, right? And then obviously the throwing the pack on the floor and all these different things. But to me, I just look at it and go, you don't have to change too much to go, if he just doesn't get hurt. Murray was on track for the exact year he always has. It's March. He turned it up. He's getting in shape. He's healthy, and all of a sudden the Nuggets look like the best team, beating Boston on a win streak. And I just don't have to go that far back to just go, if I could change one thing, Murray doesn't get hurt in March. The Nuggets of last year go into the season a little more rested, a lot more healthy, and I honestly think they win the title again. And we're talking about back-to-back titles.
That's the thing. For as many valid criticisms as there are about Jamal, he was also hurt. Like, that's not, no one made that up, and a calf strain is serious. And
even if he wasn't hurt, he was not in great shape because he was hurt.
But I think where it manifested, dude, was less like a lot of people point out that he scored a lot in Game 7. And by the way, he did. That was impressive. But there were like little things Murray struggled to do in both of those series. Defensively, boxing out, that I don't even think were like Murray wouldn't do this because of his competitiveness. I think he was hurt and hobbled. I think there are ways you still hold him accountable. I kind of hate that word. It's like almost useless to me, but it's still fair to talk about the bottom line.
Accountability, useless.
Oh yeah, I guess that's a no. From the perspective of
it was just a funny line.
Yeah, it's tough timing. Of like when media members go, you hold them accountable. Like, kind of like, what does that?
Oh, like you need to be in the presser, being like, hey,
yeah,
I'm holding you accountable.
Like, I don't really know what that means, but there's a bottom line you can still hold Murray to without ignoring the fact that he was hurt. And so in Game 7, would he have been more able to box out, play defense, do the little things, and so on and so forth? I think it at least gets them to the Western Conference Finals. And I was thinking about this morning. If they just get to the Western Conference Finals, even if they do look tired and Jamal looks hurt, is this different? Does this feel less like a catastrophic step backwards?
I mean, if they make it to the finals and just lose to Boston, 100%.
Dude, even just the Western Conference Finals. They made it back to the Western Conference Finals. They were a little tired.
A little less. Yeah.
I kind of think.
And if you tell me, whatever you say about the Nuggets, are they one half better? One half of Game 7 better? The answer is like almost certainly.
So, by the way, I'm actually not trying to sit here and make excuses for Jamal, who I think is going to spend this year on the court, like answering for things.
Yeah.
It's just also true that he was hurt, and I think it's a good what if.
The next one I think you're going to see a lot of is AD shot in the bubble, Game 2. This was the Cinderella bubble run, and I always tell people that there is a false history to how this series played out, and the false history was Denver, I thought, was competitive in Game 1, and Jokic got the short end of the whistle in that game. I think he got it in the entire series. In Game 2, what people do not remember, because I think people were like, well, at that point, Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis, he just wasn't ready for them. And it was probably true. He got better after this. There's no question he was better in 21, 22, 23, and 24. But at that time, what people don't remember is Jokic scored 11 straight points to close out that game. It was an unbelievably dominant fourth quarter from Jokic in Game 2 to give them a go-ahead bucket with 2 seconds or whatever it is, 2.9 or something like that seconds left. And that was what we would be talking about going into Game 3. And honestly, it was a watershed moment for Jokic of like, hey, Anthony Davis is pretty good. Everyone's talking about this Lakers team as a juggernaut. And Jokic just went 11 straight to close a game, all in his eye. And now it's 1-1. Would they have won the series? I honestly don't know. I probably would say no. But I don't know, man. That was a special year, and that was such a deflating shot.
Couple of things. First of all, helps highlight how important the shots that Jokic hit in the series sweep were, and the shots that Murray hit in round one this past year. Like, yeah, do I feel like the Nuggets always would have won those series? Yeah. But, I mean, the Lakers could easily talk themselves into, like these shots took what could have been a different outcome away from us.
Especially Game 2 this year, yeah.
I digress. Not necessarily the whole point here, but it is true. Like, that's why, big shots matter, even if history is like, oh, it ended up being a sweep. That being said, being here for that shot was an illuminating and formative experience for me living in Denver. It is when Nug Life went from an academic concept to something I was watching, because I can't really describe. I knew all of the belief that had been building for you guys and how excited we all were for this. And I knew you all lived with this kind of fear.
That would happen.
That would happen. And when he hit that shot, you guys dropped your heads in a way that was like, I was quiet for like 10 minutes. I didn't say anything. I was like, oh, I get it now.
Dude, why are you bringing up old stuff?
Yeah, why are you bringing up old stuff?
No, because that's why. Because that's the thing, man. When Lakers fans are like, oh, Nuggets fans were more excited about beating the Lakers than winning the title. Kind of.
Because they were synonymous. In a lot of ways, they were synonymous. Yeah.
Like, they never beat the Lakers because stuff like that would happen.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So here's the thing. 2 thoughts on this. One, let's say the Nuggets do win that series, and then I think they would have beaten the Heat that year in the finals, and they win a title. as much as it'd be awesome, because now we're talking about 2 titles, I'm glad the Nuggets' first title did not happen at Disney World.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go ahead and get that out of the way. I would have taken it. I would have been happy, but there would have been a level of like, oh, that's the only title in the history was that one, and it would have been like, ah. So there's that element of it too.
I actually strongly agree with this. I think the bubble is right where it should be in Denver's story.
Yeah.
But you don't. There's that brief moment where you're like, man, I hope this isn't. We spend years going. Remember when they made it to Game 7?
Right.
Like. And thankfully, that's what the Clippers do now. The Clippers will spend the rest of their lives on podcasts talking about, well, we didn't really care. While the Nuggets can look back at it as like a launching point for what was to come.
The only thing I'll say about the AD shot, and if you go back in time and change it, is that I think at a minimum, the series now goes 6 or 7, right? And let's just say Denver takes this to 7 games and they lose, and LeBron and the Lakers go on to win it. Heartbreaker for sure. But I think the one thing about the bubble is Denver had to come back from 3-1 twice and then gets beaten 5. And I think there is a sense of like, it was a Cinderella, almost like we view the Pacers this year, right? Of like, well, man, that was a great run. They did it. But come on. Not real in some capacity. And I think if you would have extended that series to 6 or 7, which again came down to 1 freaking 3 from a guy who shoots 12% career from 3, it comes down to that. Denver pushes that, and it would have been a little bit more of a, okay, that was just a young team that was actually that good. They just had to learn some lessons a little bit more. Let's take a break. I got a couple more of these, which are a little more esoteric, that are about draft picks and things the Nuggets did around the draft that if you change them, they actually have enormous ripple effects. We'll get to that on the other side.
This is a fun one, boss.
It's fun, huh?
Yeah, I like this one.
Thanks, buddy.
You know what's fun, man? Being active, thinking about what you eat, striking a healthy balance in your life. And that is where UC Health's Ready, Set, Co Challenge comes into play. You may have heard out, and there's a football game tonight.
I'm wearing what I thought was CU colors, but everyone has told me not CU color.
Nope, no.
Dude, it's black and gold.
Yeah, that's gold for sure. And that's also black. You nailed it.
No?
0 for 2, man. 0 for 2. That's cool, though.
It's black and gold adjacent.
Sure, I'll give you that.
Because I'm not really CU guy. I'm CU adjacent.
Yeah, you figured it out. See, Coach Prime is a very good football coach in part because he's quite motivational. I think you could... no one in the world could argue that, which is why he's perfect to be the chief motivation officer at UC Health's Ready, Set, Co Challenge. The goal is to get Colorado back to its rightful place as the healthiest state. There are many primes. Nutrition Prime is here to help you set the tone and get you thinking about choices, little choices about how and what you eat. It's all about balance. You don't have to make a fundamental life-changing shift to like what you like to eat. You just got to strike a balance. And in the great state of Colorado, we really should be on top of the healthiest state discussion. Allow Dion to motivate you. And if you want to learn more about UC Health's Ready, Set, Co Challenge, click the link in our show notes or go to www.uchealth.org. If I were not walking all the time because I'm doing my part in the Ready, Set, Co Challenge, I'd be driving a Toyota. Or if they would just give me a car for free. I do host a podcast.
Seems worth it.
Yeah, right? Seems worth it for them. No, I may have to buy one, but I would be excited to buy one, and so should you, because no matter what kind of Coloradan you are, there's a Toyota for you. Maybe you're into trucks. Maybe you need this car to do work. Maybe you like this car for some recreational escapes to the mountains on the weekends. Maybe you like a balance, a city ride that's also safe in the winter and the mountains. Maybe you're looking for a low or zero emission vehicle. Well, Toyota has more of those than any other automaker combined. No matter what kind of Coloradan you are, if there's a Toyota for you, visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota Arapahoe in Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is a proud partner of the Denver Nuggets and the official vehicle of DNVR. Beep, beep.
There you go. And we are back, segment 3. Throw us a like if you guys are enjoying today's episode. Also, if you're enjoying today or any of this week's episode, the two-man game, we always appreciate a little shout-out on social. I'll tell you what my mentions have been like lately. We hate you. Us Russell fans hate you. Us Westbrook fans hate you. So if you want to say something positive about, hey, we're still enjoying the crew, hanging with the fellas in the offseason.
Learning a lot about myself. Frat bro. Tell that to the frats that didn't want me. You know what I mean? Just like...
We were joking about this earlier, Kale. They're calling... there's some people that are like, they're just a bunch of DNVR guys, just a bunch of frat bros. And it's like, brother, I go bird watching.
Eric's an artist. Kale did theater. Adam goes birdwatching. I played Ultimate Frisbee in the early 2000s.
Harrison didn't drink soda till he was 18.
Yeah, no one was like, "Oh, you guys are cool. Come hang out." That's why we hang out with each other.
Just to keep it 100, I was a frat bro. But
This is actually incredible. Kale is the frat bro. Kale is the frat bro.
What frat was it?
Shout out Sigma Phi Epsilon Iowa Delta.
Is that a theater frat?
Nope, just a regular frat.
Kale would be. I bet you have a varsity jacket too. Whatever.
Who hazes you worse, us as a crew or your fraternity brothers?
Oh, you guys by far.
By far. So you know what?
This is like a
know
fraternity.
What? Yeah, chats. You know what? The comment.
Right.
Haters are right. Have to hand it to the haters. They were right.
Back to these sliding doors moments. Here's a big one that we're so far removed that we barely remember. But back in 2017, the Denver Nuggets had an opportunity to just draft OG Anunoby.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They could have just done it. Instead, got a little cute, traded back, and ended up with Tyler Lydon. Obviously, could have had Donovan Mitchell, too. I didn't want to do that one. OG Anunoby, to me, is the guy that would have been a perfect player for the Nuggets, especially at that moment in time. And so, all right, what happens? What if the Nuggets would have just taken OG Anunoby? They wouldn't have had Monte or Vlatko, actually. I guess they could have had Vlatko.
Dude, would they have Mike?
Maybe not.
And hear me out, because we did.
But I mean, could they have won with OG, in that spot? I think they could have.
They might. Perhaps they could have. Listen, I know we talked about Mike's unavailability, but I'm scrolling through the OG Anunoby injury log here. Also a fellow that missed some time. OG is a really good player.
Well, you know what's funny is that because he was hurt his first year. I think he tore his ACL in college, so he was drafted but did not play that entire season. So the Nuggets could have ended up with Mike because they probably would have had the exact same
that's
season.
A good point.
You know who else didn't play? Tyler Lydon.
Yeah, that's true. And then they probably don't give Mike a max, or only one of these guys gets paid. I just think it's kind of ironic.
It might have worked out perfect that you would have got Mike, not paid him early because you didn't need to. He gets hurt. You get him for so cheap that your squad is just OG.
Yeah. No, this is true. I just think there's an irony because I know kind of like off air and even on air, sometimes there were a lot of like Mike, like if Mike could be OG, what would that look like?
Right.
And I just think it's kind of ironic in that OG is also super hurt and now wants a really big contract.
Yeah. Well, I think this is the part about OG is 2017. I mean, the earliest I can really think of the Nuggets winning it all. 2020 was such a weird year, but I don't, because the bubble, so you could say, sure, you could envision it, but not really. I think 2021 was the first year I could envision it, and that would have been 4 years of OG Anunoby. I think that was early enough that it would have worked. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think the Nuggets would have won a title with OG Anunoby if this would have all worked out the way it did. But there is a thing about Murray and Yoke were the guys. You bring in OG Anunoby. Is he a 4 years and then he's gone guy because you didn't know if you wanted to commit? It really does change. I think Denver, it's underappreciated how hard it is to build long-term the way Denver did. And the odds-on favorite is that a Harden situation would have arose where it's like he's really good, but to us, we just need something less.
And maybe it works out. The funny thing about kind of where we're at with the Nuggets, it's important to remind yourself it did work out.
Yeah.
They went on and won a title, and a lot of things have to line up. Even if you could go, like you get greedy, right? You go back, you go, man, what if they had this guy? Things in some ways largely worked out the way they needed to. We'll see what happens going forward, but it's important to remember they did go on to get one together.
Yeah. I have another fun one here. What if Tim Connelly never leaves in 2022?
Oh, can I tell you where I start?
Yeah.
And I might be a hot take. Denver still starts with the trade for KCP.
You think that happens?
I think it happens.
Okay. I think so too. I think it probably does.
I don't know about the Bruce Brown signing. Although I don't know as we've moved on from Bruce Brown.
I think he was essential.
No. That's not where I'm going. Hey, Kel. Hey, that one guy said you never show your face. He's got nothing to say today. Sorry, where were we?
We were talking about Tim Connelly never leaving in 2022 with Bruce Brown.
Okay, so I think Bruce Brown still happens anyway.
Maybe. Who knows?
No,
honestly.
because I think Bruce Brown was no one signed him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll go here." Because honestly, look, I'm not trying to start a fire, but even the quotes that got out from Calvin that he thought were off record were on record. Didn't seem to suggest that he was like, yeah, that's my guy, let's go get him.
Right.
So much as it's
and
just...
he was signed on day 3 or whatever, so it makes you think.
I kind of think a lot of GMs in the league would be like, wait, we can get Bruce Brown for this contract? Right. Like, let's do it. And that's not me trying to take away from Calvin. I think Calvin is different from Tim in some like prudent, important ways. But I do think a couple of those things might still have happened.
I think it would have been vibey, but here's the thing. The Bruce Brown piece, who knows, man? Who honestly knows? Even the KCP thing, who knows? I'm big on you give people credit for what they do, not for what you think they would have done. So I'm going to just put this as who knows, not as definitive. But I want to get to this part of it, though.
Okay.
The one move I don't think happens is Bose Highland gets traded. And I honestly don't know if the Nuggets win the title year if they don't trade Bones. There was a seriousness to the Nuggets that was required, and part of that was getting rid of a distraction that unfortunately became a distraction. Now, I don't want people to think I'm saying Bones was a bad guy or any of this stuff. We love Bones. But I think that there was the wrong place at the wrong time. It was a wrong partnership, and if he's here, Tim loves his guys, and he loves the Bones Highlands type player, and I just wonder if he would have been like, we're not doing this for Reggie Jackson. We're just going to play, like, let's ride this storm out. And maybe it would have worked great. We would all love to have Bones right now if it was working.
No,
but if it didn't, they just don't win the title.
No, I think you're right. And that's the exact kind of thing I was trying to articulate, that like that's a Calvin move that I don't think Tim would have made, that Denver needed to make. We did learn covering the team that year. It mattered that all the boats were tugging in the same direction. Yeah. There was one exception. And also, I'll give another, like, this is to give Calvin credit too. Like I don't think Tim would have drafted Christian Braun, and I'm glad that Calvin drafted Christian Braun.
Right.
I do think KCP and Bruce still happen. I do still think they could have won one, but that's not. Both of these guys are fallible. Every GM has hits and misses. Every GM is different and has different skill sets. And we'll see. This year will go a long way for how people feel about Calvin and his decisions.
Let's get to some other ones, and these ones are a little more negative, just in tone. What if Mike Conley's shot goes in on Game 7 and the Nuggets lose the ultimate heartbreaker that you could possibly imagine, coming down from 3-1 and then blowing it in the final second?
I think this is the one.
This is the one?
I think there's a chance changes are made.
Yeah.
Now it's tough.
I agree. I think this completely changes the timeline.
I do too. It's tough because it's the bubble, and you could talk yourself into everyone being like, well, do we want to be too reactive to that? But I think it would have been one too many we're almost theirs. Just one too many. And maybe you stick with Jamal and Jokic and all that, but Michael Malone, would he still be here if that shot goes in? He always says Game 82 is the one he feels like he was surprised he didn't get fired.
Right.
But I wonder if this series, if that shot goes in, if that's the one where he would have been.
I don't know that he gets fired. I don't know if anything happens, to be honest with you, that's major. The only thing is that the perspective changes. And if everything else is the same, and okay, so 2019, you lose on your own home court in a Game 7 to the Portland Trailblazers. And then the next year, you lose in round 1. By the way, Denver was favored in that series against Utah going into it.
Right.
You lose to the Utah Jazz, albeit in the craziest fashion possible. Denver's resume going into the 2021 season is not really playoff success. They beat the San Antonio Spurs. They lost to two teams they were favored over, Portland and Utah. Are they that good of a playoff team? The narrative is different. And then if Jamal Murray gets hurt in 2021, all of a sudden it's like, now you got to wait 2 more years before you have any kind of playoff success. And I actually think it changes everything. So I don't think anybody gets fired immediately, but I do think down the line, Denver doesn't have the confidence, the swagger, or even belief in themselves. And when I say that, I mean maybe Malone gets fired in 2022.
Sure, right.
Spiral meningitis gets him in Sacramento, and then Murray's injury gets him in Denver. And it's just like, damn.
And it's just, because at that point, what do you... And then also, probably not, this doesn't change. This is a stretch, but I'm going to throw it out there. Just public perception goes a long way. Does Jokic have one fewer MVP?
Oh, 1,000%. Maybe more than that. Maybe he doesn't have an MVP at all, because you're right. It would be weird to give a guy MVP, let alone 2 of them, which he won before winning a title. 2 of them, when if his only playoff series win ever was the San Antonio Spurs
and it
with LaMarcus Aldridge.
By the way, wasn't pretty.
And it wasn't pretty. He went 7? Came down to the wire.
Oh,
so
man.
I think you're right.
I thought of this. That Western Conference Finals run really did kind of buoy him in the public perception.
It gave it the ability for you to say, what my eyes are showing me is this is the best player in the world, and it's okay, I can say that because there's at least some kind of history here.
Yeah, this is a big one, man. I also wonder how much Murray and Jokic's personal confidence.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, it just never blossoms to where it's at. Yeah.
There's so much. I'm telling you, there's so much momentum in the NBA for players, and players have to make their own luck. This is not an excuse, but you come in and lose confidence early. Very few players overcome that. Likewise, you come in and have a huge boost. It's like, hey, man, you're riding this wave where everything just feels great.
I belong.
And your confidence never wavers. The next one's a fun one. I never hear people ask this what if, but what if Nurkic doesn't get hurt in 2015? So if you don't know,
Yeah, you
Jokic
gotta
and
help me out on
Nurkic
this
both
one.
get drafted the same year, but Jokic's a stash. Nurk comes over. Nurkic plays and has a fantastic first year.
That's right.
I mean, when I say fantastic, not Jokic fantastic, but fantastic as you knew he was going to become roughly the player he has become, which was a guy who can play. And so he was like, okay, that's our center of the future. But he gets hurt at the end of his rookie season. And as a result, he's not available for his sophomore season. That means when Jokic came over, there was nobody in his way. If Nurk was here, we already know that when he came back the following season, Michael Malone was like, well, we got to start both of them, and then we have to make a call, and it's going to be Nurkic. Like, Malone doesn't get enough criticism for being this slow on the Jokic train. But you want to know what it would have made it almost certain that he never found Jokic or arrived at Jokic? If Nurk was never hurt, because Nurk was that good that you just felt like you had to invest in him.
This is disturbing to think about, actually.
I agree.
Because that's why I like this segment. The sliding doors are important. I go back and forth all the time on Jokic if we're looking at something that was inevitable or something that's a miracle.
Yeah.
Because it's not as if Jokic was 13 and secretly knew he'd be a 3-time MVP one day and the rest of us were just trying to figure it out.
Right.
Jokic got here it's cool that they let me be on the team.
He was happy to be there, man.
So you think about all the little things that just, if his opportunity came a little later.
Yeah. And that's what I think would have happened, because I think it's not fair to Jokic to say, would he have just never got... Now, he could have gotten traded. Denver might have played Jokic's rookie season. They're like, man, this guy's really good. What can we get from him? We already have Nurkic. Let's trade this guy. And at the time, even his rookie season, you probably could have fetched a pretty good player. I don't think at that stage you could have gotten a great player, but you could have gotten a pretty good player for Jokic after his rookie season, and that might have happened. It's actually frightening to think about.
I'm just imagining him in Toronto or something.
Well, it would have been like Marcus Smart or something, where it's like, oh man, you think you can get Marcus Smart? Marcus Smart's a fringe all-star.
Right.
You can get that for Jokic, and then history would have been like, man, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to anybody.
That would be like Bill Simmons does those going back, worst trades in history segments.
Yeah.
That would really similar to the Shea trade, which is the Paul George trade. He'd go back and be like, oh, you traded a future MVP.
So Nurkic, again, God sometimes bless the doors he doesn't open, and that was one. In 2015, he gets hurt.
God bless the doors.
You closed.
God bless the doors.
You closed. How about this what if? This is a positive one. What if the Nuggets win Game 82? Not lose it, but actually win.
Big brain time. Is it a positive thing?
I don't think it is, because they would have played, I believe, the Warriors and gotten absolutely smacked. It would have been their first ever playoffs, and it would have been like, and you want to talk about Jokic looking bad in the playoffs? Go guard Steph Curry at their absolute apex with Kevin Durant and everything else. Jokic looks like a statue of defense out there while they put up 150 every game.
The Warriors team that only lost one game in the entire postseason?
I think it might have been 2018. No, 2017 was, I think.
Sorry.
All right, well, if you're playing bingo and you've got Hunter hunted, congratulations, because they claim, even Malone himself will tell you, they came back and they wanted it. They knew they were close, but they had to get better. I will say, actually, here's my official take. No one was holding their breath, I know. We overstate this.
You think?
Nothing changes.
You might be right. I do think there's just a narrative thing. And I don't think Denver, nothing changes other than they go to the playoffs and get killed. And then they play the next year and maybe they beat the Spurs and then lose. I don't know if enough changes.
But
that it just starts to add up. It's the same thing with Jordan. Jordan never lost in the finals, whereas LeBron has lost so many times. Yeah, because he was there every year.
Right.
If the Nuggets just made the playoffs but lost, it's somehow better that they didn't lose in the playoffs in 2018.
No, I know. I guess what I think is that I still think Murray and Jokic would have happened eventually. But I agree that seemed to... I think it's too easy to be like, well, this needs to motivate them. But that seemingly did motivate them as an organization. And sometimes
really did.
You do respond to that. So I understand why it's a talking point. Just sometimes I also think, is this one of those sliding door moments that fits neatly after the fact?
It probably does. What about if the Nuggets would have won Game 7 against Portland in 2019? I didn't think of this one. This is a really good one.
I don't even know my answer, but I have the question.
Because I think that 2019, are they also facing the Warriors then? Or
yes, because then the Warriors win, but they're hurt. They lose to the Raptors.
There's a chance Denver... I mean, that was a banged-up version of the Warriors.
All right, here's the thing. Portland fans hated it when we said it. The Nuggets were better.
The Nuggets were better.
Portland
They just
played
weren't
a better
ready.
series. Portland played a better series. They won. That's how it works.
Myers Leonard and Rodney
Yeah.
Hood hit some shots.
Torrey Craig took a shot. I'll never forget.
Oh, listen to us. We sound like Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Myers Leonard made a shot.
Hit a shot. Torrey Craig took a shot. But there's just...
Torrey Craig got cooked by CJ McCollum, by the way. I can't believe he was the stopper for a while in
I
Denver.
gotta say, see, one of the
Shouts to him and his new relationship.
Yeah. Torrey's doing fine, so I no longer feel bad saying this.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny when CJ tweeted "good defense, my ass" on the step back clip. Sorry, it was kind of funny. It all worked out for us, so we can say it now.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but that was
What happens, though? So they go to a Western Conference Finals. They play the Warriors, who, again, were kind of like banged up. They'd played a lot of basketball
So I think they lose that series. But
Yeah.
you know what I don't think happens? Narratively, Fraud City.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, oh, this is
I
the
think
next
you go,
team.
man, yeah, Denver is that next team.
I think Jokic might win an MVP a year earlier if this happens.
In 2020, oh, that was
Yeah.
Giannis'
When he
era.
finished,
It's tough.
maybe he doesn't win. You're right, though. That's the year he finished fourth.
In 2019,
and
he was
coming
fourth.
off of a Western Conference final appearance.
Yeah.
I think everybody would have been like, "Oh, like he's that dude."
I think it definitely, this one might have changed things. It also, here's the real thing it changed. Murray and Yoke healthy, if they just made it to the conference finals 3 out of the 4 years they've been in the playoffs, it's like, yeah, man, that's pretty dope. You basically, that becomes their floor and how we talk about them. This one is fun. What if Tim Connelly waits on giving Michael Porter Jr. a max? How does this sliding door change?
Man.
Because, of course, famously, if you don't know, he gives it to him early. He didn't need to. He could have given him the same contract one summer later, and they could have had that. But instead, he gives it to him, and Mike immediately hurts himself and is out for the year and needs back surgery. So if you don't, you could probably retain him for way cheaper. You probably sign him to like a 2-year deal.
But then does that mean you might have been able to trade him? And then would you have traded him?
Maybe.
And then would that have prevented anything? Because, all right.
Well, I don't think you would have been able to trade him because he would have gotten his back hurt. I mean, it seems
Yeah.
like. And so then even on a cheap contract, you would have just ridden the cheap contract out.
Does Mike, and maybe you should get more credit than this, but here's my what if about it. Is Mike way less of a good sport about the offense? Whether he should or shouldn't feel justified in that. If the money wasn't there, is he a little sick of Bruce Brown closing or Jamal not passing to him in the fourth or Malone just kind of refusing to give him a compliment and a presser? Like all those things that Porter's just kind of been like, it's cool, don't worry about it. Like I strongly
That's such a good
suspect
one.
he didn't worry about it because he had a maximum deal in hand. Now, that also currently has them handcuffed in some ways. Handcuffed is maybe strong, but it's not helping. But does it all happen the same way? I'm not sure.
I don't know if it does either. I mean, you want to just go straight to, well, they would have got him for cheap, and now he's in the system for cheap, and the
Right.
same thing happens, but for cheap. And they could have added another player, Bruce Brown, every year, you know? That's the optimistic view. The way this probably works out is that he gets hurt, and Denver gives him, he misses that whole year, and then Denver gives him like a 1+1 team option or something, like
Yeah.
a short-term deal, and which is great. Denver would have had the flexibility. But then do you keep him long term, or does he just play out his little 2-year deal? And by 2023, which is if we during the math, all
He's
in
an
order,
Atlanta Hawk.
2023 is the year he could have been a free agent, and he's gone. So I think that this one's a risky proposition. I definitely think MPJ being on a max contract is not good value.
Right, it's not.
But
it's a
you might
roll-
have just lost him.
to roll the
otherwise.
dice. That's just kind of the thing. And that's what I was getting at with OG, right? Like you wouldn't have just given him a max a year early. No one would have. But eventually you would have gotten there where he's
Yeah.
like, hey, I want you to give me more than you want to give me. What are we going to do about it? So there is something to Porter's contract that, look, it's objectively not dollar for value a good deal,
Yeah.
but dollar per dollar. But there's something to like, it helped them keep this 5 together that helped them go 16-4. And would you even risk changing that?
Yeah. It's an interesting one. These were some fun ones. Did we have any in the chat, Kill, that you thought that we didn't discuss?
Not really.
Didn't notice?
I mean, there's a lot of what ifs just about like Murray not getting hurt last year, which we talked about.
Right.
And just
Last year to me is the big one, man. I honestly think that's the one that you have to squint the least. There's the fewest number of ripple effects after there for you just to be like, I think I know how that would have gone. Finals appearance, at least.
yeah, and then just some funny ones like what if DNVR never existed and stuff like that.
They never would have won. What if we never made it to Serbia? Which people don't know this. We made it to Serbia by the skin of our teeth, man. That
trip almost didn't happen.
So I was actually Googling, because we're at the anniversary of our Serbia trip. I was Googling like when we announced it. It was like 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
Because that's when we booked it.
Yeah.
If you recall, we did not book that trip until the last second.
I remember because I was like out of town, and I remember you calling me and being like, "Is your passport updated?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, we're going to Serbia."
Yeah. And then we bankrupted a sponsor.
Worth it. All right, what do we have super chat wise?
Let's go. Let's change things up today and start with Cedric. What if the Nuggets never won the chip? No, Adam. Some of us won't circle back on Maul. Can't stop us. P.S. Vote. I got promoted starting tomorrow. Hey, don't handle the last part. That's just for me. Congratulations on your promotion, Cedric. Very, very proud of you and happy for you, my guy.
If the Nuggets never won a chip, we'd be down so bad, man. We're at the point now where the end of Yoke's peak is in sight. I don't think it means that it's here or anything like that, or that we feel it. But you can now kind of be like, how many years do we have left of this? 5 of prime Apex Yoke, maybe 5. And so if you didn't have a title now, you start to go like, hey, man, it's only so many more chances at this. So I think we'd all feel a little worse. That one, it's the ultimate emotional floor raiser.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. 5-5-5-5-5-ish. What if Adam was 5'4" and a snake guy instead of a bird guy? What if Vogt was 6'4" and drove to work every day? For the record, I'm 5'6.5".
Yeah.
Who's counting?
And I'm 6'5", so
yeah. Well, if I was 6'4",
insulting both of us here.
I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I would just walk around all the time.
Can you imagine the dynamic? Everything else the same, but you're the giant guy.
Dude, the world would not be able to hold me if I were 6'4".
Actually, I think this is accurate, Kill. I would say
everyone's lucky.
God made you the height that you are for everyone's benefit.
Right. It's for the best.
I have a question. If Adam was a snake guy, not a bird guy, would we be bird drafting?
Oh, that's good.
Dad joke. Let's go, Kale. Hell yeah. Kale's on a little vacation right after the show. We should make the show go really long so he doesn't get to go on his
so
vacation.
I don't get to leave for vacation?
Yeah. Okay.
And
all right.
We're going to close. We're going to close out with Cedric telling on himself. He says, "What if no Adam, no Vote, and no Kale? It would just OnlyFans NT."
I don't even know what
Cedric.
this means. Yeah, thanks for getting us out on that one.
Yep.
Tomorrow, if you guys want to, as prep, I'm going to give some homework. Check out the Austin Rivers Michael Porter Jr. interview, because I'm telling you, man, good job becoming the MPJ guy. He's so fascinating.
Thanks, man. I'll take all credit.
I was giving you credit for being an MPJ guy, not for him being interesting.
Oh, okay.
But listen to that one. It's a really good listen, and we're going to talk about it on tomorrow's show. It is Friday, so we might get even casual with it. Should be a good time. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Hit that like button on the way out. We'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.